Morning.
Hope my voice will hold up this morning a little bit. I'm one of the older guys here, and so I don't have a slide presentation. I'm a little bit more technically challenged. So, in a lot of ways, I like to keep it simple, but more importantly, I think what I want to do is kind of feed off of some of the things that they said. You know, but I'm going to address it from a different perspective. I spent 35 years as a television journalist, and I'm going into my 6th year on the Omaha City Council. And in those environments, I've had an opportunity to look and see things that, you know, first of all, I think there's a young man that used to do a television show, and he would watch things and it would make him go, when he was talking, because there are things that have occurred in this country and occurred in this city that we need to be at least understand before we can address some of the issues of poverty and so forth that continue to exist. In 1980, in Washington, D.C., there were about 3,400 lobbyists in Washington, D.C. in 1980. Today, there are nearly 38,000 lobbyists in Washington, D.C. 38,000. And what they have been doing, what has been going on over the course of time, is that laws have been changed to benefit those with wealth. And when those laws were changed to benefit those with wealth, guess who got left out?
Yeah.
And we can talk about the minority population, but in my district, for example, I have to address poverty. I have the largest number of young people in poverty in this country per capita. Largest number per capita in this country live in my district. People of color. We have the 8th poorest community in the country in my district. And it didn't all happen by accident. In a lot of instances, all of us in this room got tricked. We were led to believe certain things because politicians and others, me being one of them, politicians know how to package something up, make it look good to you, but at the end of the day, what they package for you, actually, they can't do. And they can't do it because, and I look at the people that ran for Congress and ran for the U.S. Senate this time, and when they get to Washington, D.C., they're not going to be facing a lot of the things that early on people used to face. They're going to be facing a lot of lobbyists that are going to throw money at them, and they're going to want them to do certain things for them. And when they do those certain things, they're going to leave other people out. Nearly 38,000 lobbyists. And the dollars, when we had the largest economic downturn since the Great Depression, how many people went to jail?
Yeah.
How many people went to jail? You got the number right, she said 0. Nobody went to jail. Even though they engaged in policies that if those policies had stayed in existence a little more than 20 years ago, we'd have had to build another jail for all the criminals that made money off of those who are now in poverty. We've got a new group of people in poverty, and they're all colors, and they're all ages, and they're there because we got tricked. We got tricked into thinking several things. First of all, we got tricked into thinking that government somehow was too big. And people continue to tell you that government is too big. I first got on the city council and a lady called me. I'd been on the city council 1 month. And a lady called me and asked me, there were 7 trees on this street called Paxton Boulevard in North Omaha that had the X on it. Those trees were bad and needed to come down. And they had been sitting there for like about 3.5 years. And she asked me, when was the forestry department going to get to those trees? And I said, well, I don't know, but I know they're part of the parks department, so let me find out for you. I'm a new guy on the city council. I said, let me find out for you when they're going to be able to get to it. And I called the Parks Department and I said, lady called me, wanted to know when they were going to get to the trees, those 7 trees on Paxton Boulevard. And they wanted to know when the Forestry Department was going to get to them. City of Omaha didn't have a forestry department. A city of 400,000 plus people, and we had no forestry department. We had lost a number of mechanics, so our infrastructure, our trucks, our plows, all of those were old, and many of them were 12 and 13 and 14 years old. And the other side of that is we didn't have people to operate them. Over the course of the last 15 years, the city of Omaha, just in their civilian population alone, has lost over 400 employees. 400. And they did this all across the country. So I want you to look at poverty from a little bit different perspective. We helped to create with the policies that we put in place. And in addition to that, we created laws that when a young person smokes a marijuana cigarette, he's almost doomed for life at that point. Because our policies created, the policies that we put in place, the laws that we passed, we made crack cocaine. Now, crack cocaine is a derivative of cocaine. And let me tell you the insanity that existed in this country for a period of time. An individual can have 500 pounds of cocaine and get probation. A black kid can have 5 rocks of crack cocaine and he gets 10 years. The derivative is cocaine that makes the crack cocaine. But those who have the quantity get less time in prison. Those who make the crack cocaine, and I'm not saying crack cocaine is a good thing or that cocaine is a good thing. I'm just telling you the disparities that continue to exist in this country and in this city and in this state. When we look at what has occurred in this country, and we have been led to believe that government is too big and our infrastructure is crumbling. When was the last time you saw so many water breaks, or streets cave in, or bridges closed? All across this country and even in this city. I covered a bridge over on 16th, over on Locust Street, where you go between Omaha and Carter Lake. And that bridge collapsed, and 5 cars were caught in that bridge collapse while I was a journalist. We started to see the destruction and the deterioration of our streets and our neighborhoods then. In North Omaha, we've got streets that have not been touched in over 20 years. Over 20 years. And so when we talk about the issues of poverty and how we got here, a lot of it is a result of policies that were created that some of us didn't even know about. And in other instances, we were tricked. We were led to believe that government somehow was too big. When the accident happened over here just off of 72nd Street, see what the policy that exists now is that it's easier and less expensive to create structures that are not structurally sound, and if they cave in and loss of life occurs, it has been determined economically that it's better for those conditions to exist, and if something happens, it's less expensive to pay the claim than it is to prepare and make the building sound and proper. That's what we've created in this community, all across this country. And we've been led to believe again that government is too big. Government employed a number of our folks. And a number of our people were keeping our streets safe. We had enough police officers. We're 130 police officers down today for the size of the city that we have. we don't have a number of people. You know what? We have one person in city government. One in city government. And if that person goes down, the rest of us in city government are in bad trouble. Because we got one person that knows how to run payroll for all of the employees in this city. How silly is that? How unconscionably stupid is that? And we continue to allow these kinds of things to happen largely because we don't know about it and people don't talk about it enough. We need to put people back to work. And some of the jobs that currently are available are jobs that a lot of the people who lost their jobs can't do. So they have to be retrained. There has to be retraining programs like Heartland Workforce Solutions and others. And that training has to be specific in a lot of instances through Metro Community College and other places to get people up to speed rather quickly so that they can get back on the right track and start taking care of their families. But a lot of the environment that exists today exists because laws were passed that we were unaware of. Lobbyists were taking their toll in Washington, D.C. They have to be effective. There are people in this community and in this nation with so much money, I don't even think they know how much money they have. And they lead, and as a result of the policy shift that occurred over the last 30 years in this country, it led to the conditions that currently exist. How do we get out of it? A couple of things we need to recognize. First of all, we need to be conscious of what's going on in government at every level. And we need to find out what the real truth is at every level. The other thing we need to do is be more proactive in terms of joining the Latino Center of the Midlands, the Empowerment Network. I don't think you have to be a Latino to join. You certainly don't have to be black to join the Empowerment Network. You know, we have a 360 violence prevention organization that meets every Wednesday at Omaha Home for Boys. There are others that we need to be supporting. I'm sitting here looking at John Jeanette, and I know Heartland Family Services is doing all that they can to turn the poverty rates around for young people. There are a lot of organizations that are doing really good work, but they're fighting for dollars from the philanthropic community and other places when the city and the state ought to be more involved. Let me leave you with one more thing. We've been having this argument about the good time law. The vast majority of people who get the good time when they leave prison, you all never hear about it. Never. And that's almost 90%. And you never hear about it because they find a way to get back to work and get back to taking care of their families and get back to doing what they do. You never hear about those folks. You will hear about Nico Jenkins and say the good time law has to be rescinded. Well, let me tell you all something. If we rescind the good time law, then you all need to sit and tell me how many prisons you want to build. Because that's what's going to be next. We have to be politically smart. We have to be politically savvy. We have to be involved in knowing what's going on. We have to join organizations that are at the forefront of getting at this, like Voices for Children and the Latino Center and the Empowerment Network and other organizations that really are down on the ground, Heartland Family Services, a number of other groups that know what to do and know how to get it done, and we support them as much as we can. But at the same time, the one thing we have to do more than anything else is be engaged in the political process so that we can start to change some of this foolishness and start telling the truth about what government really is and isn't, what can and cannot occur. We have homelessness that is out of control. I've been dealing with people this week trying to address that. The Sienna Francis House slept 128 men on the floor in addition to the 348 beds that they had. And when that sewer separation project starts, they're going to spread that out. They're not going to be able to go there that much, and so they're going to be spread out into these communities, and the end result is going to be chaos if we don't fix it. Thank you all.
Thank you to all three of you. And now we have a few minutes for questions and answers. We have a couple of our team with cordless mics, so if you want to raise your hand, they'll find you. Please resist long speeches, but we want some good questions.
Mr. Green, you talked about engagement, political engagement, and we know from reports, for example, in Ferguson, Missouri, which has a large minority population, 8% of the people voted, while they make up 70% of the population. As I understand, the last election in North Omaha, approximately 8% voted. What can we do to help encourage people to get engaged politically by voting and by taking the chance and the move that will represent themselves better?
We've been, a lot of our community has been convinced that their vote doesn't count because they don't understand the political process. That's what I try to tell people in my district all the time, is that, you know, when I was campaigning for office, I would go to people's doors and I would knock on the door, and most people like me, I think, some don't, and that's okay with me because it's politics and television and all of that I was in, and sometimes when you come to the door, you're the last person that they want to see. But I tell people when I go, I said, look, I would love for you all to vote for me, but if you don't like what I've done, then don't vote for me, but vote. Because when you send significant numbers